Hello and welcome back to the Blue Box Files. Yes, we are back with another episode of the Blue Box Files, the Doctor Who podcast where I now only talk to celebrities and famous people alike. And as you know, we've already made it clear to why it's called the Blue Box Files because we've interviewed the person that invented the name and they know that it's an excellent name, so it all makes sense. But I digress. We're here today with a wonderful guest. She is best known for working in various ways in the world of Doctor Who via the amazing and expensive Big Finish. It's the one and only Helen Goldwyn!
Hello.
So we shall start at the very beginning because Julie Andrews once said it was a good place to start. I found out that she'd been wrong yet. There is still time, but she's not been wrong. But how did you get into the industry I'm gonna call, but it might have a better name, but the media industry? How did you join this industry?
Well, I was in it from a very early age. I went to full-time ballet school at the age of 12. I went to a school called Arts Educational because I'd had an assessment when I was very young and I'd done an audition at the council and they said, well, we think she should go to stage school. So that's what we did. And then I carried on and did another 3 years on the college course there doing musical theatre. Meanwhile, I'd done a couple of professional jobs about the age of 14 onwards. And then I started my full-time career when I was 19. So I've been working for a long time.
And before you were in the world of Doctor Who, were you a fan of the Juggernaut Doctor Who?
I have always been a fan of science fiction in general, and certainly as a kid, I remember watching the Pertwee years and then Tom Baker years and Colin Baker. Uh, so all of these doctors were my doctors, and I certainly sat and watched it with my family, particularly my brother. But I'm probably not a fan and a knowledgeable expert in the way that most of the other Big Finish freelancers are. I kind of am a surface skimmer. So if somebody needs to know which era TARDIS we're using in this particular episode, it's not me. I won't know that. Somebody else will tell me that.
And do you think, in general, of working in the world of external Doctor Who, do you think knowing about the show beforehand and having that love helped when you create things? Because not only are you creating something that the fans will enjoy, but you can write it with your passion in there, and then people listening can sense passion. Do you think that's a good thing for for working in the world of Doctor Who?
I think it's essential. I mean, it may be that there are writers that see it as just another job, but I think most of us see it as such a magical world to be in and such a privilege to write for the Doctor and to be able to sit down and create different worlds, different aliens, different premises for historical situations. I mean, that's such a rarity to have that freedom and so much imagination at your fingertips. And yes, I do feel passionate about creating something that is going to speak to the fans because that's who it's for.
And one of the things you've worked on, in a nutshell, it was a huge excitement when it was first announced to be happening. The character in it, this iteration of the character, was mega popular anyway. You've got people dressing up as the character, but in lots of detail. You've got people creating their own versions of them because they love that way of portraying it. What was it like directing the amazing Call Me Master?
Well, I mean, I didn't expect that one to come my way. Uh, it was thrilling actually because Sacha Dhawan, who obviously plays the Master in the TV series, is so charming and adorable in real life. He's just the most gentle, kind person. And then you see him in the studio become this raving maniac and swing from, being funny to being terrifying. And it's so thrilling to be around that kind of ability, really. Not everybody can do what he does.
Yeah, and from the outside perspective, before you gained this job, do you think that his portrayal shown that anyone can do it because he did it so well, and it proves the point that the Master is this character that is as popular as the Doctor. Do you think you could tell this, before the audience, that people were engaging with this more than they probably have done most other Masters?
Maybe because he's a master for our times, isn't he? I think it was so disarming. I remember watching that episode that with that big reveal, and I remember thinking that's one of the most incredible moments I've ever watched uh, in this show, or actually in any show. That the turning, the transformation that he achieved. I think other masters have been kind of consistently sinister, whereas he has this affable quality that can flip in a moment to this psychotic side. And I think that's personally, I think that's much more exciting to have that kind of conflict of elements in him.
And there's not many Masters that can also utilize the power of dance. And
Yeah,
not many, I know John Sims can do it, but I don't
yeah.
think they can do it whilst looking like anyone else but themselves, and still use it in this thing. And I think that it shows that I beforehand you would think, oh, it's a really good character, people like it. But then now that Sacha Gerard took over, I've seen a whole another side to
Ah,
the Doctor Who fan world. Is because
have you?
they've gone to it like with Missy and all the others that you can tell where the fandom, but then it went oh, and everyone just drawn towards it, not just because the way that Sasha does it, it's the costume and it's the
Mm.
attitude, and you see more people, myself included, recreate that in their own ways and utilize that element.
Ah,
Do you think that's
okay.
a good thing to help keep that character alive instead of just having it as this quirky side character? Do you think that helps with the popularity of the character?
Oh, of course. I think one of the beauties and the joys of this show is that it does recreate itself. Not only the Doctor, but of course the Master has that capacity as well. So there's always the chance that there's going to be someone else recreating that role in their own way. Obviously, we've got Michelle Gomez as Missy as well, in the more modern times, and she brings something so utterly unique to it. I mean, what a gift of a part for any actor. Really, if I had the choice, would I be the Doctor or the Master? I think I'd rather be the Master.
Because it has that thing that you can still play a major role, but you can play the role that everyone looks like. If you talk to a lot of actors, they say, "I love to play the villain," but that's the way
Mm,
of playing the Doctor and the villain because it's essentially an evil version of the Doctor. With
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of
And a character in conflict, a character that actually would love to be like the Doctor, and he knows he's inadequate. He knows he's just not as special as the Doctor, and that fuels his rage, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it's a brilliant role, a gift of a role.
Why do you think that "Call Me Master" became so popular with the fans?
Ah, you mean as a phrase, as a catchphrase?
Well, no, as in the audios.
Oh, right. Um, I suppose we're just craving seeing more of that character, aren't we? We had some substantial amounts of him in Jodie's series, and I guess there's always a hunger, an appetite to hear more stories and see more evolution and see more sides to that character. Because of course, in the first episode of Call Me Master, I can't remember the title of it. It's so long ago. He's trying to actually go to a self-help um, scenario where he's trying to find his inner peace and trying to be the best person that he can be. And ultimately, it doesn't really work. But it's great to see that side, that kind of vulnerable side as well, where he's having to acknowledge the things that are wrong with him.
And I think that when if they ever do another Masterful, I think he would be an amazing addition to that merriment because every master, whether or not they're on TV or just in audio, they have their own unique way of doing it. And I think that
Yeah,
at the helm of being the most recent version would just show that the master is so powerful no matter who's playing it, and I think that would work brilliantly.
yeah.
And do you think that Masterful showcases that no matter which master it is, it you can still make something as sinister no matter what version of the character you're playing?
Well, I must confess, Masterful is not one that I've worked on, and so the ones that I've not worked on, I haven't heard. So I'm admitting that. But of course, yes, as a format, it's designed so that every master can be part of it. But no, it's not one that I've listened to, but I imagine it's one that the fans enjoy.
And moving away slightly from Doctor Who, ever so slightly, one of the things
Mhm.
you worked on was it was one of those things that no one was expecting, but when they saw it and thought that's really interesting, and it drew more people to it because they were really curious to know what it was going to be and how it was going to play out. But what was it like working on Vamp PD?
Oh, well, I mean, what's wonderful for me is that through Big Finish, I've done so many voice acting jobs. But as the years have gone on and I've become predominantly a director and writer, people tend to forget that you act as well. People tend to love to pigeonhole you as the most familiar thing. So people started referring to me as the director and writer Helen Goldwyn. But fundamentally, I am an actor. And so when somebody remembers not only am I an actor, but I'm quite a camp, comedic actor, and gives me a gift of the several roles that I played in PD, then that's nothing but joy and so relaxing for me because I don't have to organize the day. I just turn up and have fun.
Yeah. And why do you think that it's important that Big Finish as a company also release their own original work? Because it showcases that these writers can also write original work. Why do you think it's so important that there is a lot of this that they're doing at the moment?
Well, I think the reality is there's a core base of fans, probably older than yourself, who are coming sometimes often from the original series and then they've migrated to the modern series. But the core base of fans from the original series eventually are not going to be with us anymore. And you might have to cut this bit out. Um, we've got to expand and evolve as a company, and obviously Doctor Who is the mainstay. But as a team of creatives, everybody's coming up with ideas all the time. I mean, the amount of ideas that come up on the Big Finish Writers Group WhatsApp
Yeah.
group, you know, it's just amazing the talent and the ingenuity that's there. And there aren't that many outlets for it. So when an original idea does get through and does get produced, it's something to celebrate because we've all got this burning drive to create other things as well as Doctor Who.
And why do you think that Vamp PD was so beloved with a lot of people?
Well, obviously the cast helped, didn't it? We had people from Buffy and we had the original Matilda and we had, people from other sci-fi series and then people like myself who are not well known but who are familiar. And the amazing James Goss, who's so talented in creating anything that he writes. When I read it, I just thought, oh, this is just so funny and interesting, and people are gonna find it so fresh because it's got a completely different tone to anything we've done before.
And do you think that it helped to have other people in it from other that have done other sci-fi before because they can then use their knowledge of that area of sci-fi and it sort of makes it easier because I know from hearing from interviews that sci-fi terminology can be the
Yeah,
element, but having other actors that have done other areas that might use different terminology and more might use more longer words, they've got more of a
yeah.
I think that helps.
I think there's a tonal thing that comes with being in sci-fi and fantasy. I think there's a slightly heightened style of acting. It's not quite the Archers or EastEnders. It's just something that's tuned up a bit. And so people who've been in that environment key into that tone and that energy. And you're right about the terminology. I mean, I've certainly worked with one doctor in particular who we did a story with Sontarans in, and every time he saw the word Sontaran, he would say Sontaran. And I had to keep going, cut, it's Sontaran. I'm not saying who it was, but obviously being able to do that Doctor Who-y techno babble, it does take some practice. It can be quite daunting if you haven't encountered it before.
And you mentioned that it's not like the Archers. I think that what the Archers could do to make it more like sci-fi is do a sci-fi week where they're in space. It's the Archers have gone off to space. They've had enough of farming. They've had enough of village life. They're off
They've
to
been
Mars.
abducted.
Yeah, they've
Yeah,
been
they've been abducted.
abducted by the adipose. Now they're just trapped for a whole week, and they're not have to deal with anyone or any issue. No one's being scammed in living in their house. They're just worried about surviving.
Yeah.
Many characters survive at the end of the week. Only time will tell. Literally,
Yeah.
I don't know what time it is.
That would be great for something like Comic Relief, wouldn't it? Let's put the Archers in space.
Or if you want to get rid of a load of characters because you've got too many, just send them up to space and just
Yeah.
kill them all.
Oh, someone else has been abducted. Yeah.
Oh, where they've gone, missing posters.
Hmm.
Never seen them again. Um, and one of the other things you've worked on that again is it's one of those things that people were dying for on TV, but then when it went to audio, they were like, right, we're not getting on TV, but we're happy with what we've got because it is technically, without the visual element, it technically would have been the same thing because you can listen to it and then tell it's the same thing. And I know that there's fans that recreate their own versions of this with their own actors, and it's equally as brilliant. But you can tell that the love of it for this. But what was it like working on the Paternoster Gang?
Ah, well, I've been very fortunate because I've been in it and I've written one. And I think as an episode that for when I wrote one in recent times, writing for Strax is just the most fun. It's a character like no other, and you have to just come up with the most preposterous sort of battle cries and responses to things. And it's so much fun coming up with silly weapons that he might reference or old battles that he won. Um, and of course the Madam Bastra and Jenny, we just take it in our stride that we've got same-sex couples. The Doctor Who world has embraced the LGBTQ plus community in a way that other shows just haven't even touched the sides of. That we really, and at Big Finish, we work really hard to be as inclusive as we can. And I love that we just are writing about them as any other couple, apart from the fact that one of them's an alien and one of them's not. Uh, and that sounds, we shouldn't be still commenting on that sort of thing, but I just think it's great that that's the mainstay. Those are the two leads of this series because we need representation and we need it to become the new normal because it is.
And why do you think that why do you think as a concept, why do you think that people really were dying for the Paternoster Gang to be what it has become? Why do you think that that was something that people wanted to for years?
There's no other trio like it, is there? I mean, certainly when you sit down and write the script, you get the Bible, the guidebook of the series that's come before. And I wasn't that familiar with the characters or the other audio series that had come before. And so understanding the dynamic between them and this weird sort of patched together group of individuals and the way in which they function, they're just unique. And quite often we see a lot of stereotypes and we see a lot of cliches on TV and in radio. And whenever you come across something fresh and unique, you've got to really seize upon it and make the most of it.
And when you saw them on TV, they were hilarious. They were brilliant. And the only thing that always confused me is that why no one was more scared of them. You never
Yeah,
saw many people being that scared. It's like in
that's so true.
Victorian times, there's not
Yeah,
many different people. And
lizard people. No. Yeah, I remember thinking the same, thinking, surely why are they not commenting on the fact that this person has scaly skin and is green? Yeah, I agree. It is odd, but we just have to suspend our disbelief.
it's one of those. It's like you really have to go right. So that in a normal sense in Victorian England, if they saw someone that wasn't slightly like them, then
Hmm.
they would have freaked out or said something. But because they're aliens, they're probably a little bit more scared because they might think,
Yeah.
if not human, so I'm just going to walk away.
Yeah,
It would have caused any hassle.
I know. I know. The fact that Strax just gets to move through everybody looking like Strax is like,
And do you think because the Sontarans were a well-known villain in classical, do you think that's why people took Strax into their hearts because the older fans knew what the creature was, and the newer fans knew what the villains were, and
Mhm.
and you got to see a new side of the race. Do you think that's why people love Strax in a character in itself?
Yeah, I mean, we love familiarity and we love it when things surprise us. But of course, Strax has become an entity beyond the whole Sontaran mythology, hasn't he? Because he again is unique. He's evolved in this way that has given him empathy and made him one of the team. And also, he's very lovable. I mean, I work with Dan Starkey a lot, and Dan is obviously the man in the potato head, and um, and he's incredibly likable as well. So, although Strax as a character is abrasive on the outside, Dan brings his gentleness and vulnerability into this character in a way that maybe other actors couldn't.
And I think that because this is in audio, I think Dan Starkey really does. I think he probably loves it that it's in audio because he doesn't have to spend 4 or 5 hours in makeup. And I think
I think so.
he gets to enjoy the character, but without the hassle. Even
Oh,
though
I'm
he might have
sure.
the hassle beforehand, but for this, he gets to do what he loves, but not have to worry that he's going to be there for 4 hours. Unless he decided to do it on his own back, he might have a week off.
Unlikely, but possible.
But do you think that that's why a lot of actors in that have appeared in TV who that have probably played these villains? Do you think that's why they come to audio if their character gets brought to audio? Do you think that's why a lot of actors come because they get to enjoy the character and not have to worry about all the makeup and all the dressing?
Yeah, well, TV. I haven't done a huge amount of TV as an actor, but the TV that I've done and what I hear from other actors who do a lot of TV is a huge amount of sitting around waiting for the shot to get set up. So the lighting and the cameras and the angles and everything has to be, it takes hours setting it up. And then you go on and you do a little bit of acting and then you go back and sit in your trailer. And of course, if you are in makeup, that can be 4 or 5 hours or more. And one of the great joys of doing audio is you don't have to learn your lines. It's very spontaneous, authentic acting because it has to be so quick. You're just taking it off the page and trusting your instinct. And it's just incredibly relaxed and fun. You do your scenes and then you have a break and you tell lots of theatrical anecdotes in the green room. And it's just a joyful day. It's very rare that I have anything other than a joyful day doing audio drama.
And when you've written a story, are you the type of writer that rocks up to the recording date to make sure that people have, if they've got any notes and you might want to change or to make sure that the way you might have written a word in the way you would pronounce it and someone else might pronounce it differently. Are you the type of writer that rocks up to those days to make sure that these things are ironed out?
No. No, because I've got a really low boredom threshold. And once I've written a script, I'm like, I'm done with that. You just do what you like with it. I don't really, I'm on to the next thing. So when I occasionally, actually quite frequently, I've written something and then I have to direct it. I'm like, oh, God, I'm so bored of this script. Yeah, I think I just, once I've finished something, I want to move on to the next. So I'm not pedantic at all if people want to adjust things in the script. As long as they don't say, what I don't like is when actors say, well, I wouldn't say it like that. I'm like, well, it's not you saying it, it's the character, and the character would say it like that. So say it how I've written it. But yeah, I'm not precious about it at all. And I love seeing actors' interpretation and a director's interpretation, making it different to how I heard it in my head.
And when you're spending your days writing the works, and I've asked this to a few people, so it's an interesting mark. But are you the type of person that if it's something that you know a bit about, so you don't need to revisit something because you it might be like an original angle on it and it's not a continuation. Are you the type of person that listens to like the soundtrack that the thing's set in, or are you just writing it without any sounds around you?
I can't have any sound at all, and I can't have anyone come in and interrupt the flow because you have to get into flow state, and it takes me ages because I procrastinate like crazy, and then eventually I'll get into flow state, and then my husband will knock on the door and come in, and I'll be like, and then I'll be grumpy, and he'll say, "What are you being grumpy for?" Because it then will take me another 20, 30 minutes to get back into that flow. Um, But what I do have when I'm writing is an intense involvement with all of the characters to the extent that, well, when I wrote my script for Attagirl, which was one of the original series, I had to kill one of my characters. She had to die at the end. And so I was writing and crying, weeping because I was killing her. And then I had to go and do the school run. And everyone was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I've just killed someone. I didn't want to do it, but I had to do it." So I think the other mums think I'm a bit weird.
Uh, and and because you when you write stuff that either you're halfway through the character's arc, so there might be something important in the TV series you have to keep in. Do you because you don't because we've discovered that you don't listen to anything. Do you watch if it's like a character that had something major happen to him in a story? Do you watch that's a story a few before you go write it so that you've got
Yeah.
enough idea of what's happened before?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do quite a lot of research on scripts before because, as I say, I'm not as intensely into it as a lot of the writers. So I will have to go and look at some of the episodes, and I will have to listen to a lot of audio episodes that have come before to try and get into the feeling of a series. But I must say, the producers are quite kind to me because generally, if there's a standalone story, that's the one they'll give to me because they know that I'm the one that will do a more emotional story that isn't necessarily as embedded in the mythology as other people.
And one of the other things you've worked on, which I, for years, before I discovered the world of Big Finish, for years, there was an app, I can't remember the name of that, but there was some app that was trying to be this thing where lots of Doctor Who fans gathered. Not many,
Oh,
it was very small. But I had wrote this idea for this spin-off with Rose Tyler, and then I discovered
oh.
that it existed, and I went, what a and what was it like working on said spin-off, Rose Tyler, the Dimension Canon?
Yeah, really exciting. Obviously, I work with a lot of amazing actors, and I'm so fortunate that I get to witness so much talent. But Billy is one of those actors, the way she delivers lines is just so unique and so incredible and so real. I remember listening to her the first time thinking, oh, you're amazing. You're actually an amazing actor. Um, and and it's taken us a while to sort of get to know each other. I've obviously worked with Billy a few times over the years, and I think because of her fame from such an early age, she's quite guarded, understandably, because people want so much from famous people. You know, if you make eye contact for too long, then you're going to end up in a conversation with someone that you don't necessarily want to have a conversation with. And I think over the years we've really got to know each other better, and we really trust each other, and that's a privilege. And I don't take that for granted because I think it's very hard to move through the world and engage with people in a trusting way when you've had that much celebrity for such a long time.
And you mentioned there that she's a brilliant actor, and she recently appeared, recently to Britain, not so recently to Australia, but she appeared as herself in a sitcom called Austin. I don't know if you've seen it on BBC One.
Oh, did she? I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
know of that series.
and what it is that she's the main character, Michael, has gone on a tour of Billy Piper's life because that's his favorite actor, and it's Jim Howitt. Jim Howitt is doing the touring, and he goes to this cafe and he meets her, but because he but because he's a Doctor Who fan as well,
Yeah, yeah.
talking to her, and they end up having a whole conversation, and she disappears, so he thinks she's ran off of him, and then he's ran off because he's then worried. He's upset that
Oh,
she appears again, wondering where he's got to.
oh, that's sad.
And then walks in and goes, "Have you seen him?" She went, I don't. I think he went that way. And then she went with them. And the whole point is she was
Oh,
playing herself, being
yeah.
mobbed by a fan because the fan wanted to get into writing, and then he detailed every point of her career whilst they were eating cake, and it shows that she's really popular as her character Roseanne because other sitcoms want to utilize that in.
Yeah,
But it also shows that she can act even when she's playing
herself.
a heightened version of herself. But
Yeah.
it shows a range. Do you think that's what every good actor needs? Because it shows that they've got the range that they have.
Well, I kind of have a theory about acting because I think there are different types of actors. So let's say in EastEnders, the likelihood is the casting directors are going to try and cast a character as close to type as possible. So chances are someone will come in and play a character, and if you meet them outside of that show, they're probably going to be quite similar to the character that they play. And a lot of casting works like that. But if you're a character actor like me, you want to become somebody distinctly different to yourself. And I want to be almost unrecognizable. If you see me on stage and then you see me off stage, maybe you don't even know that was me. And so I kind of call the EastEnders real people, the kind of naturalizers. They're really good at saying other people's lines in a really naturalistic way. And then you've got the character actors who create a completely different physicality, voice, and persona. So it's different. It's just different types of acting. And some people can do both.
Yeah. And you mentioned there EastEnders, and as a slight nod or the a terrible joke, I think one of the greatest actors from EastEnders of all time in recent years is the chicken that keeps on appearing. I don't watch EastEnders at all. The clips I see is Phil Mitchell having an argument with a chicken. I think it must be a cockerel having an argument, and then the cockerel just walks past. So another shot it's walking, and another shot it's Phil Mitchell going, "Shut up" to this. And the greatest character in EastEnders of all time, the cockerel.
Who came up with that? Which writer came up with that idea?
People and some people getting sad about it because then Harry Hill would have utilized it
Oh, yeah.
because then it would have ran through. So every actor, there's always an animal that probably could act in EastEnders better.
Yeah.
And for as we've got to this point in the interview and people got to know you more, what advice, and this is probably in general, this could you can utilize it in whichever form you want to use. Like, what advice would you give someone that wants to enter the world of audio? Like, when I say audio, I mean the world of like audio drama or just like audio fiction, if you will.
Well, it's it's a tricky one because obviously it's an industry that the entertainment industry is incredibly competitive, and there are lots of people coming through drama school and then they come out and everybody wants the same jobs. The people that tend to achieve what they set out to achieve are the ones who are more entrepreneurial. So, I mean, if you look at how Big Finish started, it was a bunch of friends making their own homemade recordings on cassette tape in somebody's garage because they just loved Doctor Who so much and they wanted to make their own stories. And then they got so good at it, they thought, well, why don't we approach the BBC and see if they'll let us do it professionally? And that's how it all started. So what I say to actors is make your own work all the time. Like we've got so many creative outlets, we've got so many platforms on the internet. Obviously, we've got YouTube and all the social media platforms. There's no reason to sit around and wait for someone else to give you an opportunity. You just need a half decent mic. You can teach yourself basic editing by watching YouTube videos, and you can teach yourself filmic editing if you want to make videos. As you know, you've created this own, your own podcast series, which is fantastic. Um, and I've created my own shows since I was in my early 20s because the industry was closed to me. Even though I was professionally trained, nobody would let me in the room to audition. I wasn't getting rejected from auditions. I was getting rejected before I even got in the door. So that then forced me to create my own showcases. And if you can do that, eventually something will come of it. And even if it doesn't, you have the joy of expressing your creativity in the way that you want to.
And with it, with it being a medium, do you think that what makes a medium special in a sense of like for a lot of people that might want to get into these, like if you film something, the most issues someone will walk into is I don't have the skill of VFX, or I don't have the money to create this thing, even though a green tarpaulin probably does the job, uh, and the light and that's the tricky bit. But do you think that audio is the easiest medium for people to experiment with because it doesn't cost a lot, but the more you look at it online, the easier it is to sort of create these sound effects because the sound effects are probably that probably would trick you. Do you think that's why audio is a friendly medium to get into?
Yeah, I mean, of all of the mediums, it's the one that has the most capacity for expressing your imagination because, yes, it is. I've thought about making my own audio drama because I've got a studio and I can edit dialogue and I can write music, but the sound effect part is the one that has put me off and mixing it, getting the balance right and, having the technical prowess to make it sound really professional. But the chances are, if you reach out on the internet, there'll be other enthusiasts who would probably help and contribute to the bits that you can't do. And there are certainly free resources for sound effects. There are libraries online. You just have to search for them. I mean, my son is doing video game design at the moment, and he has to do sound effects. And we just go around the house with a microphone and record household items making ridiculous noises. And then he layers them up and manipulates them in the studio. So I think we could make excuses and oh, I haven't got the money or I haven't got the knowledge, but you can get anything you need on the internet.
And you mentioned there about sound effects and walking around the house, going and everything. In my experience, I think that the easiest sound effects to gather, at least when you want, if you don't want the sound effect, but you might as well record it, is birds. They're always
Yeah.
chirping somewhere.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's inconvenient because they're chirping at the wrong moment, but so, for when you're creating audio, having the birds just really annoy you everywhere and banging into windows really helps. Do you think that it's doing the sound effects with household objects helps to create something more unique than if you were to do something in a professional studio because you're finding other ways to create them sound effects?
Yeah, it's more fun. I mean, it's part of the process. I mean, me and my son have great fun coming up with ridiculous fight noises and, monster noises and robots falling apart and that sort of thing. So it is fun. And I think you just got to see it as part of the creative process. But then if you were going to do a massive battle scene, yeah, you go to a stock library and you try and get some tracks that already exist. So there's a limit to what you can do on your own.
Unless you make grunting noises in several different tones and make hoo-ha
Yeah.
noises.
Well, we have to, I mean, at Big Finish, we do wild tracks at the end of every day, and that's all the battle scenes, all the fight noises, all the death noises. And sometimes there's only two or three of us. But so then we just have to layer it up. I say, all right, we're going to do this 4 times, and then we're going to tr fold that over and, loop it, and we'll make it sound like a crowd. So anything is possible.
And what are the things that some box sets do? I can't guarantee for every box set, but a good chunk of them do. That I think that it's a similar way in that DVD extras do it really well. But do you think that it's really important that it helps people that want to get into the world having those behind the scenes at the end of the audio? Do you think they're really important, like they are on the DVD extra? Do you think they're really important?
Yeah. Um, I don't know that they're important. I don't think they add to whether, someone's going to buy a story or not. But I think people are always fascinated to know what goes on behind the scenes and to meet the actors outside of their characters, because obviously some people are completely different to their characters. And that's part of the fun of it, is thinking, oh, look what they managed to do in that performance when they sound like that in real life. And also to hear everyone's enthusiasm, because it's so lovely to hear that everyone's had a great day and it's a joyful thing that they're part of. And I think that brings joy to the listener as well, to know that it's been a happy experience.
Yeah, and I think that for me, because everything I listen to, everything I watch, I end up getting some inspiration, whether or not you end up waiting for 4 hours later where the inspiration come from and accidentally rip it off, which usually thing, but sometimes it might happen. It depends on how long you sort of thing. But I think that for me, the documentary, the end of the audio, sort of proves the point that it might sound really complicated, but it's not as complicated. And it's something that you can learn techniques from what they're saying, and you can learn things. And do you think that that's a good thing, because it could also be used in an educational sense? Of it might say to your average listener, oh, they've had a whale of a time, no one was upset. They might find bits emotional, but that's part of the process. But for people that are in that are learning about that industry, and or studying in that realm, do you think that's a good educational tool?
Maybe. I think maybe if you're coming into the business, particularly if you've been to drama school, there seems to be a mindset of assuming that everything's going to be angst-ridden and difficult, and that everything is a battle in the business, and much of it is. But I think the reality is when you get the lovely job, it makes all of that struggle worthwhile. So maybe it's inspirational rather than educational. It's like, oh, well, that's the feeling I'm aiming for. That's where I want to be in my life. That's why I'm going through all this suffering while I'm waiting for it. It's like, but sometimes obviously, I'm casting stuff quite frequently, and I'll contact an agent, and occasionally an agent won't get back to me. I'll say, is your actor available? And they won't even reply. And the reason they won't reply is because they think we're not making enough money out of this. Let's just ignore it. It's very unusual, but it does happen. And what that agent is not considering is that one day of fantastically fun work on a Big Finish audio drama could elevate their client and get them out of feeling low and depressed and rejected, and make them feel like themselves again so that they're ready for the next audition. For their mental health and their well-being, one day of having a joyful day of work can really mean the world. So yes, they're not making their commission from it, but they might get a much happier, more prepared client.
And you speak there of happiness. So on that theme, and knowing a little bit more detail into what I'm about to say, that the happiness is an incredible segue, because I know from interviewing this person that there is happiness involved. But what was it like directing Riley Takes on the World: The Revenge of Wormwood?
um, Yeah, I mean, all of it is such a privilege, isn't it, to be part of a legacy TV series. Obviously, Anjali Mahindra is so delightful, so generous and humble, and it was a thrill for everybody to revisit those roles. We had Danny, of course, returning, and so often there's a family feel, there's a family reunion feeling. Uh, and then, of course, having Samantha Bond come in as as her character from the series. I mean, I watched her play Moneypenny in James Bond when I was younger. I never ever dreamt I would be directing her one day. So all of those things still give me a thrill.
And it's because Wormwood is one of those characters that was there at the beginning of Sarah Jane, and reoccurred. You could sort of sense that when it was announced that that's where it was going to go. You could sort of sense that, even though you were only reading words and you can't really tell noises off words, but you could sense there was sort of an excitement building.
Mm.
Do you think that's because this area of the Who universe was so beloved? Don't you think it's because people loved the character?
Oh, we all love a baddie, don't we? We all love a returning baddie. It's like when we talked about The Master, I think people have such a surge of euphoria when they're like, oh, great, she's back. What's she gonna do? What's she up to now? I think we just love a baddie.
Yeah. And I think that what made Wormwood and to extent those type of villains where you see him on TV in a certain way, it's really interesting from a listener's point of view of how it's managed to sort of work really well. So a few years ago now, I interviewed someone about the Weeping Angel and how that worked in audio, and you think that would be really tricky, but because Wormwood has two personalities, the human
Hmm.
side and then the little octopus
Yeah.
alien side.
Yeah.
Bad impression. And it made it more interesting for the listener because you know that they're here for they're there to listen because they love that world and they love the character. But do you think it also enhances the listen because then they're going, "Oh, how they're going to make that work?" Do you think that makes it more exciting for the listener, not knowing how they're going to utilize like the word of audio?
That's interesting. Maybe prior to listening, but one would hope that whilst they're listening, they're just completely absorbed in the world that's being created, this sort of audio cinema. You would hope that they're not stopping to think, how are they going to make it happen? It just happens. So with the Weeping Angels, obviously, I remember when that was first announced that that was going to be in audio, and I remember thinking, how are they going to do that? But they do, and it's terrifying. Music and special effects and pacing, the rhythm of it, the jump scares. Um, they're just the guys who do that side of it are masters at what they do.
Yeah, and you mentioned that audio cinema, and I think that if the Doctor Experience ever returns, they should have a section that is just audio cinema, or it's like or like 4D surround sound of one audio drama. So everywhere you walk,
Yeah.
where you sort of select a story that works really well in that environment, where you get a different version, you get the different experience as
I
you watch
think that's a great idea. And I love immersive theatre. And I went to Time Fracture, was it?
it.
Which I thought was really well done. The makeup was amazing, the aliens were amazing, but the noise of so many people in a room all trying to communicate at the same time, the actors trying to say their lines. And I thought, oh, there must be a way of doing this with headphones and audio quality, and then have the actor on a mic that goes into that kind of mixes with that. And then I also thought, wouldn't it be great to have a warehouse with a TARDIS in the middle, and you could go into the TARDIS, and the TARDIS would swivel so it would open out on different worlds, and then you would meet different aliens with audio drama and music, and special effects. It would be great to do something like that.
That would be brilliant. And when you think of Time Fracture, I know that a lot of people got transfixed on Brian Lude due to the fact that he was called Brian, and then people just loved it. And even now, people can only every time they see the Lude go, "Where's Brian?" And it just shows that something that what of that scale can still be beloved by fans. And you think that
Yeah.
that's why Doctor Who works so well is because obviously you can have a successful TV show, but it also success in every other form. Do you think that's why the franchise can outlive, say, because like when the TV show wasn't on, audio and books still kept the fans who wanted to still engage. Do you think that's why the franchise works so well?
There's just this endless appetite for it, isn't it? Isn't there? I mean, that's how Big Finish got on its feet because it was established when there was no Doctor Who, and and I guess the fans were so hungry for new stories. It's like with any kind of soap opera. I mean, I keep referring to soap operas, and Doctor Who is not a soap opera, but it's that we begin to feel that these people are members of our family. It's an extended community of sorts. It's like I love those characters so much. I miss them. I want to know what's happening in their lives. And so audio and books fill that yearning, fill that gap.
Yeah, and you mentioned their soap opera, and I think the soap opera having those characters that like subs that are no longer with us, such as Eldorado or Brookside, and I think having those characters, you sort of feel that you love them, and I think that's what worked with, as well with Doctor Who. So you have like your Brookside era, if you will, you have that era of Doctor Who, and then you love those characters, and then when you hear them on audio and you know where they've been, or so it's like the
It's
example.
nostalgia, isn't it? It takes you back to a place in your life, perhaps when you were a kid or, a young adult, a time when life was probably simpler, less complicated than it is now, less politically fraught than it is now. It's pure escapism and nostalgia, and I think we just need as much of that as we possibly can get at the moment.
And you get a lot of those like TV reboots and whatnot. And I think that what really works in Doctor Who is when you get a character, so Ace, for example, and you have her still working in her realms of where she is, but then having the odd audio where it's Ace where she would be now, or it's an older version of Ace. And I think that sort of works because you've got the original fans that grew up with her, and then the new people are learning about her at this later stage. And do you think that that's what Big Finish does really well with, because they've got these legacy characters, you can utilize
Yeah.
fresh ways to update them to now.
Yeah, and I think there are so many iterations. I think there's criticism aimed at the company sometimes because there has been so much product coming out and all these different permutations and characters who are suddenly thrown together. But that's never created as a money-making idea. It's just what could we do that would be fun that we haven't done before? It's just about, like we said earlier, this creativity and finding other ways to make fun drama. And often that's bringing these really well-loved characters from different aspects of the world together in unusual ways.
And as a writer, and I know you spoke touched on it earlier, when a new set of characters from the world of Doctor Who get brought into the Big Finish that are new, do you get given a brand new updated manual of all the storylines, or do you only get that when you end up working with those characters?
It sort of depends on how familiar you are with the series, I think. I think, like for something like Robots, which is obviously a real spin-off from those earlier episodes, the Bible is so extensive. Like there's so much detail in it and so much history and canon that you have to take on board. Um, but for new characters, I guess you wouldn't have to research the whole series, but you definitely need a really clear breakdown of what their history is, what their connection is with existing characters, and that will come from the person that's created that character. So yeah, you will have to do quite a bit of research on it.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of like people in the world of Big Finish, and you can always sense that because they're a fan of Doctor Who, you can sense that the joy isn't just working in the minute; it's the excuse that they get to sit and watch Doctor Who, or to get out in it.
Yeah,
Do you think
yeah,
it shows in their work once they've had that fun time working on it?
yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm in this little WhatsApp group with a lot of the writers, and I haven't got I've got notifications muted, not because I'm not interested, but because there are so many posts, and I would say 80% of the time they're posts about Doctor Who. So, and I will always read them. Like sometimes I switch my phone on, there's 100 posts, and I think, well, I know this is going to be a fun thread, so I'm going to read it.
And one of the things you've worked on that is it's interesting because the TV show had its small window of utilizing the character, but didn't go into too further detail. And then having the audio world has just opened a new love for that character that was brought in as the mysterious one. What was it like acting in Doctor Who Time War Uncharted 1?
Well, extraordinary because, hang on, Time War. God, I can't, do you know, I can't even remember. I thought actually I was thinking of War Doctor. I get so confused. I can't, do you know what? I've been in over 300 audio dramas, and I must confess that I can't remember what it was like in Time War One. Remind me.
And it starred the beloved, the every time I hear about him in person, he sounds like the most charming man in the world. Paul McGann. It stars Paul
Ah,
lead, and
yeah.
he's beloved in the world of Big Finish. And then because he didn't get much screen time on TV, it was funny for me when I found out that he was playing a doctor in Holby City because he just Paul McGann is
The
a doctor,
A doctor.
not the doctor, and just imagine him running down corridors in Holby City, and I'm thinking, wow. And then when you see him, you go, he really is a contrast. He's wearing flamboyant clothing in one, and he's wearing a suit and tie and saying all medical jargon instead of saying ah. Why do you think that Paul McGann has become such a beloved? Even because I know that he didn't get much time on screen, and people have a love hate relationship with the TV movie slash film. Why do you think that people then like absolutely adored him in the world of audio?
Well, he's a brilliant actor. He's brilliant, isn't he? And his doctor is very charismatic and modern, actually. Quite kind of the quite sort of up to date. And I was in his very first set of audio dramas as an actor, um, 25 years ago, 24 years ago, I can't even remember. And I know that we recorded in Bristol where he was living because he was very unsure about how much he wanted to invest,
Yeah,
his talent and his time in this strange medium. And then we had three brilliantly fun, ridiculously silly days of laughter where everybody took the mickey out of everybody else. And I was playing three strands of the same alien species in a studio on my own where I was having to talk to myself. Oh, no, not that. Yeah, don't do that to the doctor. And Paul found it all highly entertaining. And so that was the foundation stone for him going on and having this incredible sort of career with Big Finish, which I think he really values.
yeah. And when you ask a fan, they'll always say who their doctor is on TV, and they'll always have their first memory. Unless you mean where you have no idea how this obsession began, but you hear where you are. For me, for audio, because when I discovered the world of Big Finish, Paul McGann, even though I probably did it the wrong way around, where I listened to Doom Coalition 2 before I listened to Doom Coalition 1, I was new to the thing. I had no idea what was going on, and Paul McGann would be in the world of audio my first doctor
Oh,
in the
okay.
realm of audio because I couldn't tell you in the realm of TV, but you sort of fall in love. So I fell in love with this brand new thing. I was used to listening to like Sylvester McCoy do some odd voice on Radio 3, BBC Radio 3, where you've listened halfway through, you have no idea what he's doing, but you know it's Sylvester McCoy because he's got a distinctive voice and you can definitely tell it's him no matter what he's doing. But I think that it shows that he can encapsulate his doctor is so welcoming. And do you think that that's what makes Paul McGann so amazing in the job because he can welcome in newer fans because you can there's probably a lot more other people that will say the same that Paul McGann with their introduction into. Do you think
Mm.
it's because of him or do you think it's because how welcoming his stories were?
Interesting, isn't it? I mean, when scripts are written, they are written specifically for a particular doctor. And uh, And then if you, certainly if I'm writing one, let's say I wrote one for the Sixth Doctor a few years ago, I can't imagine having to adapt that for a different doctor. It wouldn't work for a different doctor because they're so distinctly different in the way they speak and the rhythm of how they function and the interactions that they have. So Paul, the Eighth Doctor, is written as this charismatic, charming character, enigmatic, charismatic. And then Paul adds his enigma and his charisma to it. So that's a potent combination.
And you can just tell and I know it happens with most actors, but you can tell the passion every actor's got. But when you listen to a Paul McGann, because you know that he's trying to say that this is me, I know you don't know me as well on TV as you might know the others. I'm playing all my cards on the table, I'm laying out all the stuff, and you can
Yeah.
tell that even though you can't see, you can imagine that if this had been filmed, there'll be a smile on his face. Do you think that that's a good thing because it means that he gets to represent to the fans what his Doctor would have been like if he had got further on than the American TV film?
Oh yeah, I think there's a real pleasure in that for any actor that sort of any actor that's done a bit in the TV show and then they get some development, quite considerable development to their character journey through audio. That how can that be anything other than a pleasure, really? Any doctor that sort of comes in and gets their own series, any actor that comes in and gets their own series, that's not something that any actor takes for granted. That's a real privilege to get to explore all the different dimensions of a character that you've already created in a smaller way elsewhere.
And as we come down to the slippery slopes towards the end of this timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, vortexy interview, trying to think of many other words there. For people that are interested, which is everyone, what upcoming projects that are either for audio or for anything else that you're allowed to talk about? Because I know that NDAs are here, there, and everywhere. What upcoming things have you got that you're allowed to talk about that you're excited for people to see, hear, or do whatever else they do in the centres?
Well, my main project this year has been the Ninth Doctor and Rose. So obviously those are now coming out, and I've been listening to the edits and signing off on edits and looking at the artwork, and we all kind of check the artwork and the cover text for typos and things, and then we sign that off, and then we wait for it to be released and for the listeners to give their reaction. So far we've had the first episode has come out, and I think people have loved it. I haven't really had time to check online, but I think people have loved it. And I'm always excited for people to hear those episodes because I know people have so much invested in that relationship, in that era. And I think the our producer Matt Fitton and all the writers and myself and Chris and Billy have and Camille have all really invested a lot of effort to make it as authentic and nostalgic and wonderful as possible. So I'm really excited for people to hear those.
And for people that, without giving away your home address, where can people track you down online?
Well, I've just started doing more online content. I've avoided it for many years, and I've realized that nobody remembers you if you if you don't have a presence. So I have a new channel called A Real Character, A_real_character. That's on Instagram and TikTok. And there I do examples of voice character acting and also talk about my perspective as a director and actor in the world of audio and also in the world of theatre, talking about casting, talking about some of the technical things about directing. So people are interested in that. That's where you'll find it, A Real Character. And I'm on LinkedIn, Helen Goldwyn, and I have a Facebook professional page, which is Helen Goldwyn, composer, director, actor, whatever. So yeah, I'm all over social media now.
Yeah, and she's more all over it than I am. Um, which it should be the opposite way around, but I mean, I've got the mind of an 80-year-old and the body of a 4-year-old. So there we have it. Thank you for letting me interview you.
My pleasure. It's been really fun.
And to see more from me, well, just don't go anywhere. Just press the button and do whatever you want with it. There'll be more from me in the sense of just generally more. There'll be some intriguing things that I won't say due to the fact that A, the title might change, and B, the content might change. Depends on whether or not the idea can be remembered until the next time I think about it. And the Time Hoppers, which is now an official spin off within the world of Doctor Who Earthbound, will be coming to you soon. So look out for that. It'll be shared wherever on Earth I share it. unless you press buttons, you might find it manually. And so, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all for more of what only time will tell. Woo! Don't forget to subscribe to the official Tom Mason YouTube channel.